Howdy gamers and gamettes. In case you're new here, I've done one of these before, so let's just cut to the chase. Rules. Pain and suffering for the next few weeks of your life. Pokemon Naturia. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. It's an older ROM hack, but it checks out. This hack came out in the year 2014 and has completely overhauled Pokemon Gold, adding in Pokemon and items up to the most recent games at the time, that being Pokemon X and Y, as well as adding in abilities that sometimes work as intended and sometimes don't. At first I didn't intend to Nuzlocke this game anytime soon, until one day, as I was just mucking about in Discord, a sinister hooded figure posted a screenshot of a Twitter poll he made in his Discord, which you should go join if you want to, and I don't know why, but I felt personally attacked by this. So I immediately took off on trying to hardcore Nuzlocke this game, and property lost my sanity in the process. Here we go. So everyone knows the story of Gold, Silver, and Crystal. You get your starter, you go to Mr. Pokemon, the rival steals a starter, Team Rocket doing some stuff, you gotta stop them, you beat Lance, then you go to Kanto, then you beat Red, you know, the standard stuff. While the majority of the plot is still the same, the ROM hack is still technically in beta, despite being released 7 years ago. So, no Kanto, no Red, and probably still a shitty plot since this is Gen 2. But that's enough about the technical side of things. Let's talk about the actual game now. It took me 6 attempts to beat this game, each one getting, farther than the last, and to say that the early game is an RNG hell would be an understatement. First off, you only get one choice of a starter now, being an Eevee with the new ability Litmus. This ability will make certain fights easy and certain fights stupidly hard depending on if God loves you or not. Since you can only choose one starter, I bet you're wondering what the rival has for their starter. Well, they have a Trico, which means the first fight can go smoothly if Litmus works in your favor, or it'll go hard if it doesn't. But after clowning the great value version of Blue, I get the Pokeballs and the Nuzlocke begins. With the first gym being Flying type, it makes most of the early game encounters either mediocre or straight up bad. I found that the easiest way to get past Faulkner is to get one of two encounters, either getting a Pharaoh Seed or an Aaron, since they're really the only Pokemon that you can get at this point that resist flying. On the other hand, getting something like Sewaddle is very bad, as you could probably tell, since Bug Grass dual type means that it's 4 times weak to flying. Luckily, I don't get trash encounters, and instead get a Zigzagoon on Route 29, an Aaron on Route 46, a Venipede on Route 30, an Abra on Route 31, which fucking teleports away, a Zubat in the Dark Cave, a Larvesta on Route 36, which fucking runs away, a Duskull in the Ruins of Alph, and a Ghastly in Sprout Tower. God, that's a lot of encounters. Continuing on, the Sage at the top of the Sprout Tower is the first difficult fight since his Pokemon's levels scale with your own, making the level cap extremely tight depending on if you spread out your XP well. After beating him, it's now time for the gym, and as a very interesting and frankly annoying change is that once you enter the gym, you cannot leave until you beat the gym leader. So you better stock up on all the potions you can in order to, not die in the gym. Faulkner, no surprise, has received a decent difficulty spike, sporting a new team consisting of Tailo, Murkrow, and a Staravia. Once again, this fight can either be really easy or hard depending on if RN Jesus loves you, as you could potentially sweep the gym if you get good types with Eevee's Litmus, and if you get either an Aaron or Pharaoh Seed, obvious stuff. One of the main problems that you'll encounter in the fight is Mud Slap, because it can lower your accuracy, just like in base Gold, Silver, Crystal. Other than that, if you play smart, this fight shouldn't give you too much trouble, especially since the AI likes to bug out and spam healing moves like Roost a lot. But with Faulkner out of the way, we get the first gym badge and move past the hardest part of Gen 2 Nuzlocke, the early game. After climbing the bird-brained Faulkner, I go and grab an egg from Professor Ohm's assistant, and then I receive a gift of one of the Gen 6 starters from an old man. I choose Froakie because from what I've seen and read about, is that Greninja is really fucking good. But with everything that I can do at the moment done, I head south and catch a Frillish on Route 32 before battling my way through all the trainers on said route before making it to the Pokemon Center and getting the old route, allowing me to go back to Violet City and catch a Gyarakarp in the water. I then backtracked even further to Cherry Grove in New Bark Town, the fish, and I get a Corphish and a Tentacool inspector. Entering the Union Cave, I catch an Onix for my encounter and continue my crusade to Azalea Town, and having another run-in with Larvesta, got away again.
He got away.
Out of anger, I slam my head into a tree in Azalea Town a few times, and a couple of eggs fall out. Then I go and tell Kurt that Team Rocket is brutalizing the Slowpoke, and Kurt rushes off to stop their tomfoolery, while I catch a Slowpoke of my own to brutalize. But because Kurt is an old man, he breaks his hip, and I have to finish what he started, losing my Duskull, Frillish, and Execute, and evolving my Onix and Togepi along the way, before stocking up to take on Bugsy. Once again, once you enter the gym, you're locked in until you beat the gym leader or lose to a trainer. Both Aaron and Steelix made short work of the gym trainers before coming face to face with Bugsy. 3/4 of their team is Easy Street, having a Joltik, a Whirlipede, and a Swadloon, with their ace being Scyther. However, once again, Scyther has roost, meaning that the AI will sometimes just bug out and start spamming roost despite being at full health. Going in, I forbore to level my team up to the tap, so I'm already at a disadvantage. But with the beast that is Steelix, I quickly sweep through the first two Pokemon, and deal a good amount of damage to the Swadloon, when I switch into Togekiss and end up throwing for content by using Metronome a lot.
Fire Blast! Ember! That's just as good! Let's go, baby! Let's go, baby! The Metronome Pog! Scyther! Oh god! Metronome baby! Metronome baby! Sword Stance! Into Metronome baby! No! I just lost my fucking Togekiss using Metronome baby! And I end up losing my Togekiss. I get the gym badge though. With the disappointment of losing my Togekiss, I take my rage out on Great Value Blue before catching a Whirlipede in the Ilex Forest, because I forgot that I had caught a Venipede earlier, but because I'm lazy, I didn't feel like re-encountering and made my way through the forest. On Route 34, I encounter an Abra, which fucking teleports again. Seriously rethinking my life choices at this point. Nonetheless, I make it to Goldenrod and head north to get some more encounters, and I end up losing my Froakie. Now, this Froakie was angering me, and I thought that it was glitched, since I had leveled it up to 16 where it would have evolved normally. But instead, it evolves at level 22, and I had only leveled it up to level 21. Now you would think that I would have noticed this in the documentation that's provided for the game. However, there are two different files of documentation that state evolution. The Pokedex documentation file, and the Changes to Evolution documentation file. In the Pokedex file, it says that Froakie evolves at level 16, and in the Changes to Evolution file, it says it evolves at level 22. You'd think I would check both so that I would make sure that they're the same, but I figured that they would be the same, because why would they be different? It doesn't even stop, because, spoiler alert, later, I catch both a Gligar and a Sneasel, and have both evolution methods not work, because fuck me, I guess, and fuck, sorry, went off on a tangent there, but that shit was really aggravating to me. Anyway, continuing on, I catch a Poliwag on Route 35 and a Scyther in the National Park, which I immediately evolve into Scizor before taking on the gym leader. Now, Whitney, most people remember being a very difficult gym leader. She isn't really. People just remember that because stupid toddler brain doesn't know how to deal with Miltank. But anywho, in this, she's actually difficult. She leads with a Mr. Meme with its new ability, Wallmaker, which will set up either a reflect or a light screen when it enters battle. So, I start the slugfest with my Scizor against her Mr. Mime, which unfortunately she gets a crit. So I switch into Corphish, expecting another Psychic, but instead it hypnosises. but then it kills me with Psychic next turn. So I send out Scizor again, and it goes for Hypnosis. Again. I was expecting a Hypnosis to, start, so I equipped the Chesto Berry onto Scizor, and killed the Mr. Meme with Cut, which is now a Bug-type move, which is a really nice quality of life change. Next in comes Porygon, and its new ability activates, Camouflage, which acts just like Conversion, transforming it into a random type of one of its moves. And it just so happened that it got transformed into an Electric type. This caused my eyes to light up like a real shit meme, so I switch my Steelix into a Zap Cannon and start setting up curses while Porygon uselessly uses Psybeam before I murder it with a Bulldoze. Next in comes Snorlax, which uses Rollout for some reason, which gives me an easy 3-shot with Bulldoze. Finally, out comes Clefairy, which does have Ice Punch, but Steelix is so swole that it's like an ant punching Mount Everest. And with that battle concluded, 3 badges now rest comfortably on my belt. Heading towards Echo Peak, I fight my Shadow, which turns out to be a Tangrowth, and catch a Gligar on the route just south of Echo Peak. Inside the Poke Center, I have a short encounter with Bill, and head back to Goldenrod and receive the Beldum that would normally be an Eevee, which I quickly evolve into a Metang. I decide to head into the Burn Tower to try and catch a good Ghost type, and instead I catch hands with Great Value Blue, whom I crush, and then I catch a Darumaka who was just hanging around in there. Looking for more Ghost types, I head to Mount Mortar and find a Feebas flopping around on the ground. Next, I set my sights on the gym ahead. Morty's team is one hell of a jump in difficulty, coming strapped with a Gligar, a Haunter, a Dragalge, a Tentacruel, and a Crobat. While the first 2 don't sound very scary, their main purpose is to annoy you, with a Gligar having Toxic Roost and Protect to stall you, and holding a Chufa Berry to set up Rain when it gets hit, which will be changed to Poison Rain when it uses Sludge Bomb. And Haunter having Confuse Ray, Hypnosis, and Nightshade to chip away at your health. If you manage to get through those 2, you then have to deal with Tentacruel, sporting its new ability, which is just Drizzle, but for Poison Rain. I haven't mentioned her yet. This new Poison Rain is a new weather condition that chips away your health, similar to hail and sand. But after 3 turns of the same Pokemon being exposed to it, it's poisoned instead. And obviously, it doesn't affect Steel or Poison. Also, having Blizzard, Dazzling Gleam, Sludge Bomb, and Confuse Ray, as well as its impressive special. After that is Dragalge, who doesn't really have much in terms of scariness, mainly just Dragalge being very offensive. So that brings us to Morty's last Pokemon, his Crobat. Crobat by itself is a very scary Pokemon. So, what if it had an ability to heal itself when it deals damage with a Bite move? And would you look at that? It has 2, sporting both Fire Fang and Crunch, as well as Hypnosis and Confuse Ray. Oh boy. Let's get into it. I lead Gyarados against Gligar in order to get an Intimidate off before switching Steelix into an oncoming Toxic, before a turn of nothing literally happens, and I start smacking it with some Crunchers before I inevitably switch into Metang, and just waste time by attacking it, and it going for Roost, before I decide to switch into Scizor and chip it down with a combination of Cut and Steel Wing, leading to Crobat coming up. During a Fire Fang, I switch into Gyarados to both resist the Fire Fang and to get an Intimidate off as it goes for Hypnosis. Since Crobat can't do much to Gyarados, I try for an Ice Fang and get confused by Confuse Ray, break through the confusion, and then miss my Ice Fang because God hates me. So I switch into Gligar for a slow U-turn as Crobat uses Crunch, and switch into Lairon in order to bait Fire Fang, and then switch back into Gyarados to get another Intimidate off as Crobat uses Confuse Ray again. So I switch into Steelix as Crobat goes for Crunch, and switch back into Gyarados on a Fire Fang this time. So, I decide to go for an Ice Fang, as I get confused and break through the confusion, this time feeling about half up. So, expecting a Crunch coming in, I switch back into Steelix, so that it won't do much healing from Vampirism, and Beta Fire Fang to switch back into Gyarados. But it goes for Confuse Ray while Steelix was asleep, for whatever reason. So back into Steelix we go, and Crobat lands a critical Crunch, bringing it back up to full health. So, one more time, back into Gyarados on a Fire Fang this time, which misses, so I go for Ice Fang twice as Crobat goes for Hypnosis, missing both times. But I guess I low roll both attacks since Crobat survives with a sliver of health, allowing it to land the third Hypnosis. I decide to try for the turn 1 Wake Up as Crobat confuses Gyarados, so I switch back into Steelix and then back into Gyarados, and decide to tough out the Sleep/Confusion this time, and eventually kill the Crobat with a Waterfall. In comes Dragalge.
Expecting Thunderbolt, I switched into Gligar, and then into Scizor, getting a clean 3-shot kill with Steel Wing. Now, if I had missed a Steel Wing or gotten crit by Dragalge Surf, things would have played out a lot worse. Since I got lucky though, I didn't lose my Scizor and in Haunter, who I slap with a Bullet Punch while it puts me to sleep, and I try for yet another turn 1 Wake Up until I get confused. So I switch into Gyarados and try for Bite while I get put to sleep again, so I try for yet another turn 1 Wake Up, which I don't get, and instead almost die to a Sludge Bomb. So I switch into Metang and get confused, hitting myself the first time and landing a Zen Headbutt the second. Finally, in comes Tentacruel, so I switch into Lairon, hoping that Tentacruel doesn't freeze with Blizzard or crit as I stall a bit with Protect before getting confused. I decide to tough it out a bit and deal some damage with Iron Head before stalling more turns of Acid Rain with Protect. At this point, Lairon is hurting, so I switch into Gligar and slow U-turn into Steelix and risk everything on waking up and landing a Boulder.
She got 21 damage.
Well, I was not trying to be in that fight.
As you can tell, I was fucking relieved that I won. On to the 5th gym. On the way to Olivine, just a word of warning, you'll come across Pokefan Ruth, who has a Heliolisk that if it switches in when Sun is set up, it'll crash your game.
Singing his
No.
national anthem.
Oh, I hate
The national anthem of his people, the trash rats.
I did not know this at first, and had my game crash, and had to fight through Morty once again before bashing my head against the wall trying to beat this lady, because you can't get back to Ectopeak without passing her unless you have Fly. So, be careful. After making it through the most difficult part of the game, I reach Olivine and clear out the lighthouse before making my way to Cianwood, catching a Psyduck and a Staryu along the way. When I arrive at Cianwood, I was thoroughly confused since no part of land looked like it could be reached, and spent about 30 minutes looking around confused before realizing that I am an actual dumbass and moving on. Now, the Chuck fight, I don't have the footage because I forbore to hit record, but I'm pretty sure I beat it with a combination of minimize spam from Starmie and Darmanitan being a beast. But Chuck is still a very scary fight. Please do not underestimate this guy. The 6th gym is in Olivine, as you probably know, and Jasmine's team isn't that scary compared to Chuck's, having a Skarmory, an Aggron, a Metang, a Steelix, and a Magneton, compared to Chuck's cracked team of Breloom, Lucario, Poliwrath, Gallade, and Heracross. The main change in this game is that you actually have to fight the trainers in the gym before you can fight Jasmine, but that's enough idle chit-chat. Let's talk battle. I lead Steelix against her Skarmory since Steelix knows Thunderfang, and just kind of bonk it on the head a few times, lowering its defense since Skarmory has weak armor, and then eventually killing it, which then prompts her own Steelix to come in. I decide to try and set up a curse, but seeing that I get 2-shot, I instead switch it into the static Flygon that you get in Cianwood now instead of the Shuckle, and I use Bulldoze a few times before killing it with an overheat crit. Next in comes Aggron, which I stay in against and go for a Bulldoze, while Flygon barely hangs on after an Ice Punch. But knowing I outspeed and kill with another Bulldoze, I do that, leading to Magneton coming out. Deciding to gamble whether this Magneton has Sturdy or not, I stay in and risk my Flygon's life, going for Bulldoze. But luckily it pays off, leaving Jasmine with just her Metang left, which I switch into my Gligar and 2-shot it with Shadow Claw, because Metang still knows fucking pound for some reason. Hey, editor, Jeb, here, Jacob, whatever, I don't fucking know, whatever. Just wanted to point out that while I was writing the script, I decided to look into Jasmine's team in the Gold and Silver Crystal game editor to see what other moves her Metang had, and it also has Thunder Punch and Earthquake, so Gligar was a very hard counter to this thing. With 6 funky rocks and my shiny new glove, I set my sights on destroying the Team Rocket base hidden in Mahogany Town, catching a Sneasel and the Red Gyarados in the process. But Lance beats me to it and brutally murders an innocent shopkeep and barrels through the guards. I try to follow suit and lose my Starmie in the process. After beating the admins in charge of the place, me and Lance have to take out the generators for the radio tower that was causing the local wildlife to go stupid and go crazy. But the generators weren't actually generators, they're Pokemon, Wild Electrode. They're bombs.
They were made in a factory. A bomb factory. They're bombs. Oh.
But they're not actual electrodes here, they're helioliths, so add that one to the belt. After spending more time than I'd like to admit on a simple ice puzzle, I come face to face with Price, who has quite the setup, wielding a Lapras, a Glaceon, a Walrein, an Abomasnow, and a Glalie. While not the scariest team, it is impressive for an Ice-type gym leader. Roll the battle! I lead with Metagross against Price's Lapras in order to use Hammer Arm and trigger Metagross's Titan ability, which will raise my attack and speed by 1 stage, lower my defense and special defense by 1 stage, and disable the move for 3 turns. Lapras, in turn, confuses me by using Sing to put me to sleep, then using Scald, which would be a comfortable 2-shot, and then healing with Hyper Potions as I wake up and 2-shot it with Thunder Punch. Next in comes 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama Snow, which I switch Sneasel in to take a Wood Hammer, and then I switch into Scizor to take yet another Wood Hammer, and 2-shot with X-Scissor. Then Walrein comes in, and I decide to switch into Aggron and stall for a turn with Protect, which, in hindsight, wasn't the best idea, and I deal a small amount of damage with Iron Tail before switching into Steelix and beating Walrein senselessly as it just snoozes away. Price then sends out Glaceon, and since I've set up a few curses, I decide to go for an Iron Tail and barely survive the blizzard that comes my way. Unfortunately, because of the berry that Glaceon was holding, Hail got set up when it got hit, so unfortunately, Steelix falls victim to some spiky water. Seeing as how Steelix died at the end of the turn, I get a free switch into whatever I want, which I choose to be Flygon, who almost 2-shots with Fire Punch, but falls to a single Chili one from Glalie, allowing me to finish it with a Bullet Punch from Metagross. After I leave the gym, Professor Elm calls me up and tells me that Team Rocket has taken over the radio station in Goldenrod, and now I have to deal with the most anticlimactic climax of any Pokemon game. So after boringly beating my way through the Rocket grunts and losing my Sneasel, I clown Great Value Blue one more time before wrapping things up here and heading to Blackthorn City. I catch a Floette and a Swinub on the way to Blackthorn and just head on into the gym. Since Claire's a Dragon-type gym leader and the 8th gym leader in Johto, she now wields a stacked team consisting of a Dragonair, a Gyarados, an Aerodactyl, a Kingdra, and a fucking Salamence. Yikes. I lead with Florges against her Dragonair, and start setting up Calm Minds before killing it with a Moonblast, leading Claire to send out Gyarados, who also falls to a Moonblast, which leads to Claire sending out Aerodactyl, which also falls to a Moonblast, then leading to Kingdra to come out, who again falls to a Moonblast. Finally, Claire sends out her Salamence, which I go for rest since my Florges was at low health, as it goes for Fly, and almost one-shots me. So I decide to send out my underleveled Gyarados, because I ran out of rare candies in the gym, which I was using the rare candies to get up to the level cap in the gym, so I didn't have to micromanage XP and whatnot. And that's beside the point. I go for Ice Fang, which I miss. So I switch into Mamoswine, who almost dies to Fly, and somehow Mamoswine outspeeds and kills with Blizzard, leading this battle to a climactic end. Because Claire is a sore loser, I have to go through a trial, which involves going into a cave and grabbing a Dragon Fang. After that nuisance, I decide to set my sights on catching Ho-Oh, and easily do that with the Master Ball that Professor Elm so graciously gave to me, and then I start heading towards the Pokemon League. I end up running into a similar problem to the Heliolisk earlier, and end up running into this trainer not once, but twice, and end up having to do the last about 20-ish minutes of shit again. As I say though, 3rd time's a charm, and I'm off to Victory Road, and clown the rival one last time before making it to the Pokemon League. First up is Will, sporting a new team consisting of Bronzong, Gardevoir, Delphox, Espeon, and Gallade. I lead Melodic, and to say that for about 5 minutes, this battle was painful. I eventually have enough of this and decide to reenact the battle with Claire by switching to Florges and setting up 6 Calm Mind before taking out both the Bronzong and the Delphox, before getting infatuated heel stalled by the Espeon. Annoyed, I switch into Excadrill and try to take the Espeon out with a few Earthquakes, and get lucky since it tried to do the same shit again. Next in comes the Gallade, so I switch into Ho-Oh as it goes for Swords Dance. Next turn I go for Fly and pray to God that the haha funny 95% accurate move doesn't miss. Luckily, again, I hit, and in comes Gardevoir, who puts me to sleep, since I guess Will's new trope is being a fucking nuisance. So I switch into Excadrill and kill with Earthquake. For fuck's sake! Next up is Koga, who is somewhat of a pushover, sporting a Tentacruel, a Dragalge, a Roserade, a Crobat, and a Gliscor. Let's go! I lead Helioptile against his Tentacruel and two-shot it with Thunderbolt, leading to Dragalge coming out. An interesting thing about the ability Dry Skin is that when it procs, since abilities tend to fuck up quite frequently, Dry Skin will tend to proc twice, and it also sometimes procs in Poison Ray. So, I'm pretty much at full health against the Dragalge, and once it procs, sometimes it just don't stop. So Dragalge stands no chance and falls as well. In comes Roserade, who deals more damage than I'm comfortable with. So I switch into Ho-Oh, who is still asleep from the well fight, because I forgot to wake it up. But after a few turns of snoozing, Ho-Oh wakes up and one-shots the Roserade with Flame Charge. Next in comes Crobat, who deals a stupid amount of damage with Thunder Fang, as I go for Fly. And expecting the Crobat to go for Thunder Fang again, I switch into Excadrill, who immediately gets put to sleep, and then almost dies to a Fire Fang. So I switch into Tentacruel, who two-taps it with Aurora Borealis, leading to Gliscor coming out, who, yet again, gets two-tapped by the Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the region, luck lies entirely within Koga's chamber. On to Bruno. I made sure to fully heal everyone before entering this battle, and lead Ho-Oh against Bruno's Pangoro, who falls to a single fly as it goes for Swords Dance, leading to Steelix coming in. Knowing that Steelix has Stone Edge and not wanting to risk it, I switch into Melodic and barely don't kill with Waterfall. But knowing that the AI will heal this turn, I exploit this mechanic and two-tap that big snake. Next to the chopping block is Chestnut, so back into Ho-Oh and another one-shot with Fly. Breloom comes in next, an almost similar situation, but it's running a Focus Band, which of course procs, as it puts me to sleep. Completely over sleep hacks, I switch into Florges and finish off with a Moonblast. Lastly, in comes Lucario, who uses Close Combat and barely doesn't die to a Moonblast, even after the Spidef drop. So I switch into Tentacruel and finish it off with Surf. 3 down and 2 to go, and so far no deaths. We schmoovin', boys. Next up, Karen, the Dark-type Elite Four, and once again, I go with the classic strat of +6 Florges and sweep with Moonblast. With this strat, I get through the Malamar she leads with, as well as the Mismagius and Dusknoir, as well as getting the Greninja really low, before switching into Heliolisk on a Hydro Pump, now giving my Heliolisk but Tyranitar is still scary, and I pivot through Ho-Oh into Excadrill and then into Tentacruel before switching into Melodic and making some bad choices, risking both my Tentacruel and Melodic before switching back into Excadrill and killing with Earthquake. Finally, it's time for Lance, or should I use his real name? Seto Kaiba, who has one hell of a team of dragons, wielding the power of Gyarados, Haxorus, Aerodactyl, Salamence, Tyrantrum, and Kingdra. But honestly, he was the easiest one to beat. Starting off, I lead Heliolisk against Gyarados and make a ballsy play with Focus Sash. Not quite one-shotting with Thunderbolt, but surviving the incoming Earthquake with my Focus Sash, and killing it the next turn with another Thunderbolt. Haxorus comes in next, which I switch into Ho-Oh on a Superpower, and then into Florges on another Superpower, and then kill it with Moonblast. In comes Aerodactyl, and I switch into Melodic as it punches itself in the face, and then almost die to a Stone Edge, and then kill with Waterfall. Next up comes Tyrantrum, and knowing that I need a clean switch, I decide to sack Melodic and try for some cheeky damage by going for a Hydro Pump, which lands. However, the Tyrantrum's attack misses, and then Seto heals Tyrantrum when it's at half health for some reason, allowing me to kill it with a Waterfall into a Waterfall crit, leading to Kingdra coming out. I decide to commit to the sack and smack the Kingdra with a Waterfall, which activates its Kuva Berry, making it rain. Then the gears started turning. I switch into Heliolisk, and with the power of ridiculous auto-healing, the Kingdra and Salamence stand no chance and fall to the might of Heliolisk, making me the new champ of Johto. This ROM hack is a trip and a half, and it is a spiritual journey from beginning to end. And if you haven't tried this out before, I highly recommend it. For a difficulty hack, it fits the bill rather well. The main problem being that there is a lack of trainer documentation available, with the majority of my own documentation coming from watching Sinister Hooded Figure's video that he made on this hack. and afterwards from the gold, silver, crystal trainer editor. If you do wish to try and beat this ROM yourself, I would highly recommend joining Sinister Hooded Figure's personal Discord and asking for help there, since he has a whole channel dedicated to the ROM hack. Aside from some small gripes, like the game crashing when some abilities activate, I thoroughly enjoyed this hack, despite going clinically insane when I beat Kaiba. I sound like a broken record here, but you should try this out for yourself. So, until next time, stay fresh, cheeseburgers.
Bye, have a great time.